Welcome to part 2 of episode 2 of the JJ and Pug Show. Welcome everybody back. Hopefully you were able to get episode 2 part 1. And I want to leave it to Jason real quick to fill everybody in.
Yeah, so sorry I had to step out last time. So I did get some bad news. We got a phone call during the last podcast to basically head up north to Show to go see my dad. My dad, for anybody that wants to know or cares, he's been in some bad health for a while, so we've kind of expected some stuff to happen. In the last couple of weeks, he really took a turn, and so we kind of expected it. After I left your house, it probably took 20 minutes, and I got a phone call saying that he had passed away. Yes, terrible. I mean, whether we expect it or not, it's been one of those things where I don't know. There's really no way to prepare for that.
Yeah,
you know, like I'm here. I am back. It's only been a few days. I'm back. It's not that I don't care, but we just had so much already done that there wasn't much more for me to do other once we got through that process, right? So everything's fine, family's good, you know, like I said, we've kind of accepted it and we knew it was coming, and it's just been a matter of time. And we take peace in knowing he's with my mom. So that's that. I mean, everything's fine, we're good. I appreciate all the people reaching out that did it. I mean, it means a lot when you get these little messages that come through, because it doesn't take long to send somebody a message, but it makes a difference, I think, in that moment, you know. And I got a lot of responses from friends and family, some stuff online as well, which was great from this show. So I really appreciate you guys reaching out. It was great, but you know, we got to push on. It's part of life. So here I am.
Yeah, dude. There's no amount of words I could say you know, how much I feel for you guys. Like that's something that I've never experienced. And anytime I meet a friend of mine or a cousin of mine or something like that goes through it, I'm at a complete loss for words, because I have no idea how to comfort or even empathize, because it just
it's weird. And it's what's funny, not funny, but when my mom passed away, that was sudden. That was something. I mean, she got the Rona in 21, and 19 days later she passed away in a hospital. That was terrible. We had to look through glass, and there's a lot of people that I'm sure that listen to this that have had family or know this, but that was probably the worst thing, was what the hospital made you do as the family. We sat outside of an ICU room in a window, a group of us in chairs and stuff out, just essentially watching her, and nothing we could do about it. And then when it was time to let her go, this was what was terrible, was they said 2 people could go in to say goodbye.
Oh
my dad was out, right? My dad didn't want to be there. He didn't even show up. He was not about to go to the hospital and sit and watch her. But my mom, I mean, there's 3 of us. I have a brother and a sister. So how do you say, hey, only 2 of you get to go?
Yeah.
So I asked the nurse that called, I said, hey, there are 3 of us. I'm not asking for 5. I'm not asking for 10. I'm asking for one more person. We're her 3 kids. Can we all come in? And she straight up was like, I'll ask, but I'm telling you it's a no. But I will ask just to do it. And she called me back not even 2 minutes later and was like, nope, sorry, it can only be 2 of you. So like, none of us could say, hey, go do this, go do that, or you go, I'll go. Because no matter what, I think you'll be mad.
Yeah.
You're not mad, but you're going to have some kind of feeling about you not being the one in there and them being in there. Mm-hmm. So we let my mom's sisters go in, and that was the way it should have been. And it was fine. And I don't regret that. What I hated about that was we couldn't be there. Even after she had passed, I wasn't allowed to touch her. I wasn't allowed to see her. They carried her out in an orange bag, which that's, to me, that's not a good thing. When you see an orange bag, right, that usually means decomp. It's all this stuff. But because she had the Rona, the funeral home was like, hey, you can't touch her. We can't even bring her over. You're going to see this. So I left. I didn't want to be a part of that. But that was one of my biggest, I think, not regrets. One of the hardest things for me was not being able to just kiss her forehead, hold her hand, say goodbye. So I got to do that with my dad. They held on. They waited till I got there, till the funeral home showed up. And there was that sense of closure for me. So that worked out. I'm happy. But what I'm getting to at the point where you brought up about not understanding is when somebody reaches out to you, it's very nice, but it's different when somebody reaches out to you and they know how you feel because they lost a parent. I learned, I have real good friends that I grew up with that lost their mom and grandma that took care of their my friends, Brandon and Daniel. I've known them since I was a kid. And Daniel's mom was Brandon's grandma. It's kind of a weird thing. She had kids way later in life, but she passed away suddenly, kind of thing, and it was one of those things where when they reached out, I knew they knew how I felt. Not that it took anything away from anybody else that reached out; it just felt different because you knew that they knew how you felt. Because there's really no way to describe what it feels like to lose your mom, or now my dad. It's just I have a world now with no parents. It's really weird. Like Mother's Day is going to come and go, Father's Day is going to come and go. So there's some things you have to deal with, Christmases and stuff like that. But I mean, all in all, again, thanks everybody for reaching out like you did. It's been the blessings and pouring of just support has been great, and everybody's been really good. So, but it's time to move on.
Yeah. And there's no easy way of going from that to something that is as unimportant as me apologizing to Matt Prater for besmirching his name and possibly, making people think that bet on that game that lost the money line or whatever it is, that because he missed those field goals. I mean, there's no way for me to transition, but I'm just going to do it.
No,
because I don't know how else to do it, man.
No, you can't.
And you obviously know that, we've talked a lot about this, not recording, but I really do. Like, I'm really sorry for you and your family, man. And
I appreciate it. And, and again, from everybody else, I do, but it's something we've accepted, we kind of known, and it doesn't make it easier in the moment, but it makes it easier now because it's just something we've kind of, like my sister, I will give a shout out to her. I'm not sure she listens yet. I know her husband is, but those two have been taking care of my dad for the past 2 years after my mom died. And it's those two, I can't thank them enough for what they've done. They've been the caretaker. I mean, from my dad, when he's like his bowel movement started having problems and all this stuff where they had to do things that a daughter shouldn't have to do for her dad,
yeah.
and a daughter's husband shouldn't have to do for her dad, Yeah. But they have been fantastic, and I hope they know how much I think I appreciate them and my family does. So, But anyway, move on. Let's talk about Matt Prater because I don't think he blew up on purpose. Right? Yeah. Like, for a money line, for sure.
That's the thing is I wanted to make sure it was understood by everybody that when I was thanking Matt Prater from the bottom of my heart for missing 2 game-winning field goals, I don't want anybody to think that I actually look at that guy and say, oh, he definitely did it on purpose. He blew the game for us on purpose. No. I don't think he did that because he's also got ultimately his own legacy to think about. And he's been just so insanely consistent and a great kicker. But
it's just a veteran move by a veteran kicker. That's all it was. He's thinking ahead. He's looking out for the team. I don't think it had anything to do with the team. Yeah, I don't think it had anything to do with the money line or nothing. I think it was just, hey, I know what I got to do for us to secure a number 4 spot, and this is what I'm going to do.
Well, with that being said, Matt Prater, again, apologies to you, Mr. Prater, if I came off as what's the word I'm looking for? Disingenuous. Yeah.
I think that'd be a word.
I truly appreciate you. Since you've been gone, there's been a couple things that have happened. Michigan won the national championship game.
Yeah, I actually saw some of that game on the ship. They had that playing on the cruise ship. I didn't see a lot of it because it was it was packed in that little bar they were showing it, but it was there.
So there are 2 plays in particular that really cemented for me how much officiating should never come into play, but it always does. Michigan had a huge Washington had a huge play. It was a pass to Roma Dunze, and it was, I don't know, for 50 yards or something like that. It was a big play when the game was still very much in question. Holding penalty on Washington negates the play, 10 yards back. The drive turns into nothing.
They punt.
The very next, not the next play, very next possession for Michigan. Huge play. The exact same freaking thing happens when Michigan throws a pass to their tight end out of small town Idaho. I can't remember your name, buddy, but shout out to you. He gets a huge play, 50 yards plus. Same freaking thing. Holding on the offensive line by Michigan. Guess what?
No call.
No flag. Stuff like that drives me nuts because no matter what Michigan does, I mean, they played a good game, but no matter what, that's always going to come into question. Like, hey, well, what if that play doesn't go that way? Because I think Washington was only down 1 score at that point. And that a Dunze play would have put them in a position to score, tie the game up, or be, maybe 4 points down instead of 7. Anyway, it's just stuff like that that drives me nuts.
The problem is we question it now because of that Netflix documentary with the Scott Donahue or whatever.
Donahue, baby. Yeah,
because now, I mean, I'd like to think the refs they just miss it. They're people. They make mistakes. It happens. But when you watch a Netflix show and it tells you that
this actually happens.
Like you said, it's not one of those, it could happen. Like we've talked about. No, it happened.
It did.
So everybody's always suspect now. And especially the way betting's getting out of control especially in football. I don't follow the betting portion so much in basketball and stuff, but in football, it is out of control what you can and cannot bet on, and what these guys do. And
for every pro sport,
right? So you're like, I mean, so the part of you, like, you're like suspect. I could see
my thing about that is like I just hate it when there's not a game that goes by that's perfectly officiated. It's never going to happen, right? But there are certain things where that are like, dude, that happened right in front of your face, man. It was right there. You saw it. In how you don't throw the flag, you're not gonna get out of that unscathed. Someone's gonna question it. I am. Shoot, I'm questioning it a week and a half later. I'm still thinking about it. But ultimately, I really don't care all that much. I didn't really have much of a dog in the fight. I was rooting pretty hard for Washington because, last chance for the Pac-12 to be able to go out as champions.
Yeah.
And a good buddy of mine, Jimmy Berman, is a dog for life. And so, you know what, Jimmy, I got your back, buddy. I was rooting for him hard, but once once that went down, that tight end scored, I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm done watching the game. It's over with. And, I like Harbaugh's. I do like the Harbaugh family. But there's something about Jim that's made it pretty hard to root for him this year. I mean, the 2 suspensions were one thing. Because it's like, okay, advanced scouting's not allowed and you did it. Everybody does it. You got caught. Okay, whatever. But it's just the arrogance that comes with it. Just to pretend like you didn't do anything wrong. It's the same thing with Herm Edwards when he pieced out of ASU, leaving them in complete shambles. No. It's like, dude, you're not going to take any accountability for this, which is one thing that you were like known for. Is like you're your grandfather that's going to teach all these boys how to be accountable young men. Dude, you took your money and pieced and took another job at ESPN without any shame.
Which is unfortunate because I've had the pleasure of meeting Herm Edwards. I actually sat in a conference or whatever where he gave a speech to a group of us, and he was super motivational. And I wanted to like him based on the way he was a guy that didn't let his players cuss in certain times, or he was very professional. He didn't, you were in a profession, you need to look this way, act this way, and he was awesome. He came from a military background. Mm-hmm. He's hardcore, strict military guy, and when you see that, you're like, yeah, and no, everybody got a price, bro.
See, that's the thing that drives me nuts. It's like, okay, yeah, he's got this reputation for being this sterling character, and I'm not besmirching him and saying he's a horrible person. Right. I'm just saying that was your reputation, and then you bailed on ASU the minute things got tough. And I know that technically he technically wasn't get fired because he didn't get fired for cause. He still got the rest of his contract, which I think is an absolute joke. Because that's coming out of our pockets over here in Maricopa County, and anybody else that's funding Arizona State University. And maybe I'm wrong in the facts on that, but that's the way it feels. This guy walks out with a golden parachute. He doesn't have to worry about what's going to happen to ASU because of his recruiting violations. That's something that somebody else is going to have to deal with years down the road.
ASU has to deal with it. Yep.
Right, and then Kenny Dillingham, he's the one that's going to have to really deal with it because those are infractions are going to come down on his program. He had nothing to do with. He already had to deal with a bowl ban. Which, I mean, the team turned out not to be good enough to make it to the Bulls anyway. But, I mean, that was a
joke's on you.
Yeah, I know. But it's just one of those things. I can't stand that happens so often with these guys that when they can screw up one program and peace out, go to the next job. Doesn't matter. Antonio Pierce. Yeah. He's, might not be a head coach at the NFL, but what he did with the Raiders seems like he might get one.
Yeah.
He's just as culpable as Edwards.
True.
And the guy's gone. But it's just that kind of stuff drives me nuts. And, college football, overall, it's in a hard place, man, because as a person that's here in Arizona that roots for all the Arizona schools, I'm a lumberjack. I root for ASU. I root for the Wildcats. I want the high tide to raise all boats. I want the level of competition to rise in the whole state so that everywhere we go, you can't walk into the state of Arizona thinking you got it easy.
I like that term. The high tide raise all the boats.
Raise all boats, baby. And I can't take that one for myself. I heard that one from a little Ron Wolfley. That's his. Yeah, I honestly look at it and say, dude, because when you go into Oklahoma, you got to play Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. Neither one of those guys are pushovers. And what is that? Because competition breeds competition.
Yeah.
When you have these two programs that are fighting each other, now Oklahoma's had the better of them for the last little while, but Oklahoma State's been no schlub. I mean, they're pretty good.
They've been all right.
So it's one of those things I look at and I want ASU and Arizona to be gold standard programs. And as this new era of going to the Big 12, I think we have a chance to do that. All of that was great all the way up until Jedd Fisch decides, I'm out. I built something here at U of A. I've got us a 10-win season, ended on a high note. We just beat Oklahoma, trashed Oklahoma. I'm gone to Washington.
See ya.
There's no such thing as any kind of loyalty. And who has to suffer from it? We do, the fans.
Yeah, the fans get the bad end of that.
And the really thing that sucks about that is when you're a fan of a school like Arizona State or University of Arizona, outside of U of A basketball, and I'll say baseball, but who watches college baseball? I got one degenerate friend out there that really does. Jeff, you know who you are. You're the only guy I know that just follows it. But, I mean, it exists. There are fans out there. It gets on ESPN. But outside of that, we are just stuck hoping that they're going to hire somebody that will stick through the bad times and stay when the big guys come calling. I can't be mad at Jedd Fisch for taking a job that doubled his salary to go to University of Washington. It's a bigger program. It's a better job. But at the same time, it's like, dude, what's it going to take to get the next Lute Olson?
Well, the problem is I think when you talk about there's no more loyalties anymore.
No.
Right? And it's a coach thing. I don't think any coach has ever really been loyal because of the fact that money always talks, right? I love this place. You can say you love a place so much, dude, but everybody got a price, and it's usually not as high as everybody thinks, right? So where the loyalty for me is starting to come into play is the whole players now and the transfer portal and the NIL.
Oh, dude,
it is out of control. Like I just, and these players are like, oh, fine, I'll go play here or I'll go play there. Like, what happened to loyalty of like going with a team and sticking with it and not having these like issues of, well, I'm just not fine. If I'm not playing, if I don't think I'm playing enough here, I'm going to go somewhere else.
Peace out.
Like, and I told you when I talk about Caleb Williams because
hold on. I want to finish with you.
Yeah, finish this. But
Caleb Williams is definitely on this
we
list.
need to talk about that. But again, so there is no loyalty anymore in college football. I can't say it's all of sports, but definitely football. They don't.
It's the same with
coaches.
basketball. College basketball's the same way.
You know, and it's unfortunate because again, who suffers?
We do. The fans watching our programs. Like, and I say we. I didn't go to either one of those schools, but I do root for them because they're local.
We're Arizona natives. Yeah, like we like to see them win, especially I hate U of A. I'm an ASU guy, right? But it's still, when they did what they did into Oklahoma, like you're like, dude, I respect that. Man. At least they represented Arizona for us.
Exactly.
Because ASU ain't doing nothing, you know?
Yes.
So
and it's hard because like when you root for these teams, when I said who's the next Lute Olson, I mean that because he came to Tucson and built a national program,
a legacy,
yeah. And he turned U of A into a destination job.
Yeah,
because now guys are leaving where they were to come coach here because this is, once you get this job, you don't need to leave, right? You don't need to leave from the University of Arizona once you get the job. Maybe if Duke calls, maybe you leave for Duke because I mean that's about as pinnacle as it gets in college sports, but that's not even a guarantee. So I mean, U of A has become that because of what Lute Olson did. That does not exist in sports today. There is no place where that is true. Possibly, and I don't agree with it when I say it, but possibly Alabama in football. Possibly.
Yeah.
Because
Saban
of what Nick Saban did.
Yeah.
Right? But I'll give you right now, I don't think DeBoer is going to have near the success, and he's going to get fired in 3 years because he had 2 seasons in which he went 10-3 and didn't make it past the SEC championship game, and they're going to boot him. Because that's the kind of ridiculous fandom that they deal with in Alabama. The standards there are so ridiculous.
They have to be. Saban has created an empire there. He is
the greatest college football coach.
You can't deny it. I don't care if you're. I'm not even a Roll Tide fan, right? You never see me wearing Bama colors, but I can respect that for sure.
Yeah, because when you think about what he had to coach through, because he also had to deal with the transfer portal.
Yeah.
He also had to go through all that stuff that coaches are dealing with now, and he stuck with it, and he made Alabama. That's the gold standard. That is the gold standard in collegiate football.
I don't care how good you are in the season. You do not want to play Alabama in the playoffs. No. Even if they're number 4 of this whole playoff team thing, you don't care. You do not want to see them because it's Alabama. They have that stigma to them. Like, oh no, I got to play Nick Saban, who's arguably the greatest coach to ever coach.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, look at what Georgia did this year. If Georgia doesn't have to play Alabama in the SEC championship game, guess who's going to be in the college playoff? And guess who's probably the national championship?
Georgia.
The national championship is probably the Georgia Bulldogs for a three-peat. Because did you see what they did to Florida State?
I know. But I mean, Florida State sat 9 players. And
I know they lost a whole bunch of players to this transfer portal. But at the same time, it was a joke of a football game. It was terrible. Yeah. An absolute joke.
And they were like 5 and 6, right, or something like that. They're the 5 team playing the 6 seed, or they were close in rank.
Number 5 and 6, the 5th and 6th best teams.
Yeah, so it should not have been a blowout like that.
But that's also what Georgia did just about everybody all year long.
Yeah.
But anyway, so like to your point, you do not want to face a Nick Saban coach team at any point in the season because they can ruin your season.
Yep.
So I did want to comment real quickly on what you're thinking about when we were talking about there is no loyalty in college sports because of the transfer portal and because of NIL. When they first started talking about the transfer portal and allowing players to transfer and become immediately eligible, I was very much on board with it because my thought was if a coach can bail on his program and coach the next season, why shouldn't a kid who got recruited by this coach to come play at his program have the ability to leave when that coach left him? I mean, I look at it that way. And I've also always been in favor of players being getting paid. But the program that we have right now is an absolute joke. It is. There's no equity whatsoever in this. None. Because a coach, Jed Fish, can go from making $3.5 million a year down at U of A to doubling his salary to $7.75 million up in the University of Washington. But yet, the University of Washington can't pay the players directly. The players have to go and get that money from other people outside as marketing some auto dealership, which we know they're not actually doing.
This is the NIL that we're talking about.
That's
this
the
kind
NIL
of thing,
we're
which
talking
for the
about.
people that don't know, right now, for years, players could not receive any compensation whatsoever. It happened. Reggie Bush.
It absolutely happened.
It definitely happened.
But let me comment on this. Reggie Bush, who his parents received a modest suburban home.
Right.
His parents received a modest suburban home. His name and his Heisman Trophy were taken out of the records at USC, and he is easily the most electric football player I've ever watched play in my life.
Absolutely.
Yet Caleb Williams, who we will talk about in a little bit, can make millions of dollars using his, which, by the way, name, image, and likeness is NIL. That's what that stands for when we're talking about it. He can make millions of dollars, and his Heisman Trophy, that's good, man. He can keep that.
And then they talk about bringing back, let's give Reggie it back, right? And I know they won't do it, but
they absolutely should.
Right. It's just crazy that now these kids are making so much money, and you've punished so many people over the years. And I know that times change and we evolve, and I get it.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know.
My thing about it, I just look at it and say, we need to have, and this is not the time, because we gotta really flesh this out, but I really believe that European football or European soccer has got to figure it out when it comes to relegation and promotion. That's what we should be doing in college sports.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Maybe just in college football, because college basketball's got to figure it out with March Madness. I may not be a fan of college basketball, but I cannot deny they've got a real good thing going there with the bracket.
Oh yeah,
that's a real good
thing.
Absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
So what college football needs to do is we need to have same thing, promotion and relegation. If you win your division one year, you move to the next one, and you keep moving up if you keep winning. If you keep winning, you stay. If you lose, you drop down. And that's how we get out of this, crap that we're in right now, my belief. I mean, and I don't know. I heard head coach of UCLA, Chip Kelly. He gave a really solid hypothesis. Oh gosh, give me a word here. A good solid idea, rundown. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
It's good enough.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm stumbling over this word. I can't figure it out. He gave a real good idea of what we should be doing in college football, and I'll have to read it someday, because it was one of those things where he's clearly put some thought into this.
Yeah,
and he put a lot of thought into it. So anyway, shout out to you, Nick Saban. You're the GOAT, greatest college football coach of our lifetimes, probably ever. You've retired. You left Alabama, and which means Washington, who just played in the national championship, loses their head coach.
I can't believe, as a player, you're a junior for Washington, right? And your coach just says, "Hey, I got you here, but I'm out. I'm going." And I don't even think you can fault him, though, because if Alabama calls, right,
you're going.
How do you say no? That's like,
hey, Dan Lanning did. Oregon head coach said no. I'm not leaving Oregon.
Yeah, but I don't. Then he's dumb. I don't know how I couldn't do it. I mean, and I get it's hard.
Here's the reason why. This is a thing I've heard from a lot of times. I truly believe it. You do not want to be the guy after the guy.
That makes sense. In that perspective, yes, you're absolutely right. That's a way to say no. Is no. I'll be the next guy.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to be the dude that comes after the GOAT.
Yeah, because
it's like Mac Jones, right? After Tom Brady.
Yeah, no matter what he sucks, but no matter what he did, he was never going to live up to that. Never,
not even close.
And so you're Kalen DeBoer leaving University of Washington after having led your team on an undefeated season into the national championship. You lose, which again, it was a really close game to the fourth quarter, and that's when it kind of got out of control. But you lose in that game. In the very next week, peace out, guys. Later. Getting a new job. I'm going to University of Alabama. I'm going to be that head coach. Roll Tide. I'm also going to be following the greatest college football coach of all time. So no matter what success I have, it will never be enough, because I will be compared to that guy. And like I said, and after 3 seasons when he's had 2 10-win seasons at 10-3,
but doesn't do anything,
and doesn't beat the Georgia Bulldogs in the the SEC championship game, he gets fired. Then Dan Lanning from Oregon says, "All right, now I'll come in there."
And he probably should have just stuck with Washington and built an empire there. Yeah. Made that the team. No. Alabama would have picked up somebody, and it would have probably been worse. And then now Washington could focus on trying, because that's what's got to come next, right? Because Clemson was good for a while with Dabo. Yeah. But we need another powerhouse, and I don't think Alabama's going to. I mean, I don't know. Those guys,
I have a hard time believing
big.
Yeah.
Alabama's guys are always huge. Look at Derrick Henry still. He's in his 6th season of the pro. He's still a horse.
You know what a really crazy statistic out of Alabama is? During Nick Saban's time, he produced more first-round NFL draft picks than he had losses.
That's insane. And he coached there for years.
Yeah, he was there. You're talking 2007 or 8. I think is when he started there.
I mean, mathematically, you're talking what? Let's say 10 years.
I think 15
years.
He had. Let's see.
How many games under his belt, right? Think of, and then how many losses. And you're telling me he's got more NFL players that go, and which makes sense because those guys, when you see their linemen, when you see their D line, you're like, I can't imagine. Like, can you imagine getting off the bus and seeing those dudes, and you're like, oh, this is going to be fun. Like, they're walking refrigerators that run 640s, like running down the field. Like, oh man, that's gonna be like hit like a Mack truck, dude. You know, that's out of control.
So Nick Saban, during his time as the head coach at the University of Alabama, produced 44 first-round draft picks. For you who may not understand what that means, you have to be the best of the best out of over 130 Division I college football programs across the nation and Division II, because sometimes a Division II school. So let's make that an even 200 schools. You've got to be the very best of the best for an NFL team to look at you and say, you know what, we're going to spend one of these 32 draft picks on you because we think you are the best at your position. Nick Saban produced 44 of those.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
And he was there, I mean, I want to say 15 years.
I think so.
So I mean, he's almost produced 3 NFL players a year in the first round. We're not even counting 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th or 7th. We're talking first round.
And so this is also crazy. You know how many career losses he had at Alabama? Almost half as many first round draft picks he produced.
Really?
27 losses in his career at University of Alabama compared to 44 first round draft picks. And you know what's even crazier? Derrick Henry was not one of those first round draft picks.
That is crazy.
And he's probably one of his best players he's produced.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry is an absolute man among men.
Beast on the field.
Absolute monster.
Beast. Yeah. Absolutely.
And if you want to find out who this guy is, everybody, just look up Derrick Henry. He is King Henry out of the Tennessee Titans. He's a running back that is the size of most teams' defensive ends.
Yeah.
He's 6'4", 260, runs like a freight train.
Yeah.
Don't get that guy in the open field because you will feel the beating.
And he's going to stiff arm you.
He will bounce you off the turf.
It's coming. You're getting punched in the throat, dude. Like, it's happening.
Dude, I can't remember who it was, but he literally, when he put a stiff arm some cornerback at the edge, literally bounced him off the turf.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do.
Oh, such pain.
Yeah.
Such pain. Oh, my gosh. Okay. So we've talked about Nick Saban. We've talked about Kalen DeBoer making his career choice. I mean, and I hope the best. I don't hope the best for him because screw the SEC. But like you said, he could have stayed at Washington as they transfer from the Pac-12 into the Big Ten, another legitimately big football conference, and could have turned that program into an absolute juggernaut up there in the Pacific Northwest.
And that's what we probably should have done.
Yeah,
but he took the big.
Which is what Jeff Fish is hoping he can do.
And the big check, dude. Like I said, double your income.
Double your income. Leaving the desert for the rainforest up there.
And you got to imagine and the rain, dude. It's terrible up there. Like Washington, I spent 4 days there recently, and it rained every minute of the day I was there. All day, every day. It was terrible. But
you know, it's, like you said, it's one of those things coming from the desert. You enjoy that kind of change of pace, but could you imagine living in that?
No, I understand why it's the suicide capital of the world. Yeah. After 4 days, I was like, I want the sun. I just want to see the sun.
Got to feel the sun.
And we come out of the clouds and land into Phoenix, and I'm like, the sun hits the plane, and I'm like, this is why I live here. Yeah. Like, I'm happy already. Like, I just got happier. So,
absolutely.
Washington's beautiful, but it's definitely somewhere I could never live.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk. We talked about Nick Saban. You're the GOAT. I've said that enough times. The next GOAT that just pieced out of Boston.
Bill Belichick. There we go.
Bill Belichick leaves the Patriots after, 24 years?
Yeah.
He was there for 24 years.
Yeah.
Unprecedented success. Nobody has ever touched or even come close to the amount of success that Bill Belichick had as the NFL coach of the New England Patriots. Now, as time has gone, what do you say?
Maybe. Well, he the only person he's behind in wins overall is the Miami coach, Don Shula. I think, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he had a dynasty at one point, but we're talking the 70s for Bill. That's 50 years ago.
Not just that, but the other thing you got to consider is how many Super Bowls did Don Shula win?
We had one perfect season.
One.
And it was a perfect season, right?
The
Nobody's done
only
it
perfect
since.
season. And guess who got close?
Bill Belichick.
Bill
Well,
Belichick.
Tom Brady got close.
Bill Belichick. I mean, he put that team together.
Oh, no, absolutely.
I mean, Randy Moss was on that team. Randy Moss wasn't coming on his own. Somebody had to tell him to come.
I loved the way he played.
That was
my
a
favorite
fun team.
segment of NFL. The thing is,
You got Moss.
You got Moss,
baby.
yeah.
Oh yeah, and I love how they pull clips from the high schools.
Yeah.
They pull clips from Division II. Like
absolutely.
anybody. I think I first saw sometime like somebody got Moss in a volleyball game or something like that.
I
like
love
it's
it.
all over the
I think
place.
it's awesome.
I love those kind of clips
because he was known for that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
He catch that ball on top of anybody's head.
Yeah.
And in case you want to know what it means to get mossed, Randy Moss, prolific receiver during the late 90s, early 2000s. If you threw the ball up in the air, Randy Moss was going to jump up and catch that over anybody.
It didn't matter.
It did not matter. He was going to catch it over anybody's head. Randy was 6'4", maybe 200 pounds.
Maybe.
Maybe a tall, skinny dude, super fast. But he was
lightning fast.
Yeah, he was going to catch that ball over anybody's head. Didn't matter.
He played for Minnesota most of his
great
career,
Viking.
and then he went to play with the Patriots, and because he wanted a championship.
But do you forget that stint he made in Oakland?
Oh, he did. Yeah, he was an Oakland Raider for a little bit too, right?
And then everybody
That's right.
thought he was washed up.
Yeah, and then
Oakland trades him to New England.
Tom Brady's like, "I got you. I got you."
I mean, sets a record for receiving touchdowns in a season.
Yeah, and I
it
think
was unbelievable.
He was crazy, and he looked like he was back in his 20s.
Oh, yeah.
and he was still lightning fast. I mean, just blowing by coverage. It was crazy. It was great.
That team it's one of those things where one of the greatest Super Bowl memories I have outside of the Cardinals is the Giants beating the perfect New England
The
Patriots.
head catch.
Oh my gosh.
Wasn't it the head
David
catch,
Tyree.
right?
David Tyree, the helmet catch.
Yeah, the helmet catch. Yep.
Amazing. Now it's just the thing about the helmet catch, and this may be the right time to move into the Caleb Williams thing that we keep talking about, was Eli Manning's unbelievable escape of the pressure. The way that he was able to come out of that pressure, he was a sure sack. He was for sure going to be sacked.
I think he was grabbed.
Yeah.
too. Like he was kind of tugged on.
Dude, he was pulling, and he gets out of that, throws a prayer up to David Tyree, who catches the guy. David Tyree had never done anything after, before, or since.
Yeah, you don't know his name.
Yeah,
I'm surprised you knew it off the top of your head, but I'm not.
It's
surprised.
the helmet catch, dude.
But it's the helmet catch.
I couldn't remember what the word proposition I was trying to use earlier when talking about how Chip Kelly was proposing. This is what we do. I couldn't remember that. But David Tyree, I know David Tyree.
Kind of goes with what our wives were talking about earlier, right? Like we can't remember what they told us an hour ago, but let me tell you some statistics about
David
somebody.
Tyree.
Yeah.
Helmet catch, legendary catch though.
It was.
So the whole reason why I say Eli Manning's a great time to mention that is when Eli Manning was in the NFL draft, the San Diego Chargers, I believe, had the number one overall pick.
They
Number one overall pick in that draft. And Eli Manning comes out and says, I'm not playing for the Chargers. I'm not doing it.
Didn't they take Doug Flutie?
No.
Who did the Chargers take? Phillip Rivers. That's right. They picked up Rivers. Okay.
Yeah. So it was one of those things where before Eli Manning won a Super Bowl, everybody thought, like, this kind of worked out for everybody because Phillip Rivers was a good quarterback.
Great fantasy football quarterback.
Great regular season quarterback.
Didn't win nothing.
Didn't win anything.
Like phenomenal.
Great regular season. I mean, there were many regular seasons in which they had the number one offense and number one defense. I should say many. One I can particularly remember. They didn't win the first game of the playoffs.
Nope.
Didn't have any playoff success, but they had lots of regular season success.
Sounds like the Dallas Cowboys of late, but that's a different story.
We'll get to that one a little bit later.
I don't want to talk about it.
But so Eli Manning says, I'm not going. Everybody can't believe their ears. One, you as a college quarterback with no proven track record of success don't get to dictate where you're going to go in the NFL draft. It's a draft. And for him to have the balls to say, I'm not playing for you. You're one of number 32 teams. I'm not going to do it. Everybody was aghast.
I am because the reason we bring this up is because Caleb Williams just did this exact thing. He wanted some kind of guarantee that the Bears were going to trade their first round pick and he wasn't going to end up a Chicago Bear.
But let me throw a little wrinkle into this. Apparently, that may not be a true report.
Okay. It may or may not.
Well, no. There's some controversy around it.
Good, I hope so.
Okay, so when you sent me that screenshot today and said, "Hey, we got to talk about this,"
Yeah.
you got opinions. One, there's been a lot of weird stuff coming out of the Caleb Williams camp. None of it, by the way, directly attributed to him as a quote. There was the quote in the offseason about how his dad's saying that he didn't want to play for. He wasn't guaranteed to come out of the draft. It depended on which team had the number one overall pick, and there was a very strong insinuation there that if the Cardinals were the worst team, he wasn't coming out, which was kind of one of those things where it's like, I mean, I could see where he's coming from. I mean, that would have been the Cardinals would have recycled another first-round draft pick on a quarterback.
And I don't think they. I mean, if they're really invested in that Kyler Murray guy,
I think
he's a total different quarterback too.
I think at the end of the regular season we can say that pretty confidently. But at the beginning, with a new coach, as a new coach, he had an ACL tear. We didn't know when he was going to come back and play. A new GM, it was like, hey, they might not have much belief in this guy. Maybe they changed their minds. So at the time there was that. Which, again, Caleb Williams, he never said it. His dad said it. Then there was a story about whoever drafts Caleb Williams has to give an ownership stake into that, give him an ownership stake of that team.
See, I didn't hear that one. I haven't heard that one.
Further ridiculously move. There's no way they're giving, a quarterback with no proven track record of success in the NFL ownership of the team.
Not at all.
They wouldn't even give it to Tom Brady.
That sounds outlandish. That sounds crazy, right? Those sound crazy. But a guy, because of Eli Manning, it happened. But a guy saying, if they have the number one, I'm not going there.
Yeah.
It bothers me because I'm a guy that I'd give up a lot to go back to be a kid and play football in the pros. Are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah.
You know how much one season, I mean, just a couple games of getting killed out there would be cool, right? But like, you literally play a game for a living. Like, I don't care what you boil it down to. You dress up, play a game, and get paid money. Yeah, you only work
ridiculous amount of money.
You only work 18 weeks out of the year. Maybe if you're lucky, you work 23 or 21, right? To the Super Bowl if you're lucky. The rest of the time, what are you doing? Working out, getting better shape, staying in shape, eating like a king, doing all the money in the world, flying, playing. So don't give me this, well, I'm not going to go there. I'm like, bro, how about you go flip burgers at McDonald's and see what they go through for their time?
Yeah.
And then maybe you'll appreciate going. I don't care if I was a backup. Tom Brady went and what? No, let's go more recent. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, was like, no, I'll give anything I have. I don't care if I'm the last guy. Give me a chance at the ball and look at him.
And by the way, Mr. Irrelevant, for those who don't know, means the very last pick of the NFL draft. He was the very last person selected out of 7 rounds of 32 picks.
Yeah.
And you're the last guy.
And he's the last guy. And now he's he's in an MVP conversation.
Yeah.
You know, like for this year.
Absolutely.
For sure.
So I totally see what you're saying. I get it. But it's going to sound like I'm defending him. I'm not, because I look at the exact same way. I look at it and say, you need to understand the immense blessing that you have been given by God to have the physical tools. And obviously, I'm not taking away from any work that you've put in. You have to work hard.
You have to work. You don't just get it. You got to work. Yeah.
You have to work so hard to get to that point. But you need to recognize the immense blessing that is, like Trevor Lawrence, going to one of the biggest doormat franchises in the National Football League, in the Jacksonville Jaguars. And you never heard a peep out of that guy, except for the fact that, you know what, I'm just here. I want to do my job. I'm going to work. Now, I've also been his criticism because they've barely been above relevance.
Yeah.
They finally made it to the playoffs last year, and this year they didn't. So, I mean, it's not like he's perfect. But you don't hear a word of them. Same thing, Kyler Murray. He could have said a lot of stuff when he was the number 1 overall draft pick to the, again, doormat of the league, Arizona Cardinals. Now, they'd had a little bit more recent success, so maybe he doesn't do that. And the GM at the time, it had recent success. But the point I'm trying to make is I have 2 examples that I can think of. And I know that there's a third. There's one from the 84 draft class, I believe, of a guy saying, I won't play for that team. Oh, it's John Elway. John Elway did it.
Really?
Yeah, John Elway did the exact same thing.
Who was his team he didn't want to play for?
He wouldn't play for the Colts.
Really?
Yeah, would not play for the Colts. And at that time, I believe it was the Baltimore Colts.
I think you're right. Yeah. Because in the 80s.
Yeah. So he would not play he wouldn't play for that team. I believe it was that team. I don't know. And that's how he ended up with the Broncos. So, and I can also look at it from Eli Manning. It worked out for Eli. He got 2 Super Bowls and he played in New York.
And he's the only team he played for. He didn't bounce around. And it's not that I don't get where they're coming from. Like, you don't want to go into the NFL and have to lose.
You don't want to be drafted to the Jets.
It's like being drafted to the Browns, right? The Browns, I mean, even though they made the playoffs this year, they did great with Joe Flacco doing some work off the bench.
But Baker Mayfield is having a better year with the Bucs.
But you don't say, no, I'm not going there.
And Baker didn't.
Arrogant thing to say. And when you've got people that would, because you got to figure, like, Caleb's one of the lucky ones. He got put in. It's all about, like, I think you just got to, I'd rather be lucky than good any day, right? Mm-hmm. He got looked at right. He got recruited. He got to play at a D1 school. There's probably a kid at a D2 school, like the North Dakota. Where's what was his name? Carson Wentz, right? Mm-hmm. there's more Carson Wentz's out there that probably aren't getting near the recognition at all. And they would give anything to just be like entered into the draft, right? And and be relevant to a first round conversation. And this dude's like, nah, I ain't playing for them.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, I want to punch him in the throat, dude.
Okay, so going back to my what sounds like a defense, I am not going to defend him because I 100% agree with you. But the number one thing I will say that has the most, I would say probably not the most, but a lot, it hinders so much on their success is where they go.
It does, and I'm not discrediting that at all. I do.
Because I've used the Baker Mayfield example. Baker Mayfield, by the time he was done in Cleveland, looked like a shell of himself, bounced around from Carolina to LA Rams. And he had said this year that the reason why he is who he is because when he got to the Rams, the head coach, Sean McVay, basically told him, hey, dude, be yourself. Whoever they were trying to train you to be elsewhere, which according to Baker was tamped down on his leadership style and the way his bravado. That's one of the things I loved about him when he was in Oklahoma. I loved he went to Ohio State, and planted the Oklahoma State flag right in center field. I just love that kind of, machismo. I don't know, balls. I'm just saying the balls. He's got to go do something.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that about him. But like, anyway, he says that he was told to get that back. So he's had this good year in Tampa. So a place like Cleveland, the New York Jets, these guys don't produce successful quarterbacks. They haven't. Not in our lifetimes. They haven't.
Do you think it's because they don't allow them to be themselves? Like,
I couldn't tell you what it is. The Bears, great example. Look at Justin Fields. We both like him. We both think that guy can play in the league. And they're still having this conversation. Is he the right guy? They can't develop it. They haven't had a good quarterback in our lifetimes. Think about it. That is almost 4 decades. Almost 4 decades.
Don't say that, bro. It makes us old.
I know, but it's the truth. It's the truth.
I mean, as I'm sitting here, my back hurts. I definitely feel that old.
You adjust yourself. But I mean, in almost 4 decades, they have not had a good quarterback. And that goes to much more than poor luck in the draft. There has to be something systemic about those franchises that means we just can't get it done. And why that is, I don't know.
Well, I think we put a lot of pressure on one guy to make a lot. And don't get me wrong. If you have a great quarterback, you can have mediocre running back, mediocre tight end.
Tom Brady, great example.
You're going to win because of just them. And I get it. Caleb is not an elite quarterback. I think he could be good, but you're not good enough to say that. Like, I mean, yeah, you have a Heisman Trophy. You didn't get 2 in a row. As far as I'm concerned, you crapped the bed this year.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? When you're talking about draft stock and whatnot. So you're going to tell me that you're arrogant enough to say, oh, I won a Heisman last year and didn't do anything this year, but I'm not going to play for this team. I don't know. Yeah. If you come out on top, if your guy comes out on top and you are, I mean, you just won the Heisman national championship. You're undefeated. You got all this stuff.
Multiple years of
success, right? You come out of Alabama and you've got 3 rings in your 3 years of starting, and you know what? I would be more understanding. I wouldn't get it. I wouldn't be okay with it, but I'd be like, I can see why he would feel arrogant because I haven't lost a game. Look at Joe Burrow. Didn't say that. He came out of a powerhouse at LSU, played great after transferring from Ohio State, right? So.
And going to another historic doormat franchise. I've said that doormat so many times. I mean it. These are bad places. These are places that have not had success in the Bengals.
Yeah. And look at him.
Took him to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Because I'm a Joe Burrow fan.
Joe Cool, baby.
You would never see me rocking a Cardinals jersey and stuff, but I would rock a Joe Burrow jersey. I just like him. I think he's good. I like the way he plays, and Jamar Chase and him are a good duo together, you know. But again, you have a really good quarterback, and they're fortunate enough to have a really good receiver. Jamar Chase is awesome.
At the time, which was a very unpopular pick because a lot of pundits out there were saying, no, the Bengals, they have a terrible offensive line. Look what happened to Joe Burrow. He already got hurt. They need to draft the offensive tackle. And this goes back to my argument for Marvin Harrison Jr. No, they said, no, we want this guy because a special receiver can bail out a quarterback, and it proved all the way to the Super Bowl. They didn't win it, but they went all the way.
Yeah, no, and they at least got a shot at the dance, right? Yeah. They were at the dance. They were there. They didn't win, and it's fine. The Rams played better that year. That's all it was, right?
They were a good year.
They were good. Aaron Donald played out of his mind.
Oh,
he was just great.
I mean, great example. He's the reason why they lost the game. Last play of the game, who's coming through the middle of the line? Aaron Donald breaks it up. It's over.
Yep.
But anyway, so I wanted to say that report about Caleb Williams may or may not be true. I checked into it. The guy that tweeted it, his name's Wesley Steinberg. He's a New York Giants insider. He's got 13,500 followers on Twitter. Notice how I did not say X on Twitter. So, I mean, he's verified. Well, verified doesn't mean anything on Twitter anymore, which is one of the reasons why I can't stand it, because anybody with a blue check mark just is willing to pay the money. But 13,500 followers means you've got something going on. And so he's the one who reported it. So my thought is, whether that's absolutely legit or it's hearsay, he reported it. He put his name on that. He's not a nobody.
Yeah.
Rumors
they start from a kernel of the truth, right? Like there's some kind of truth to something, and Caleb may have said it in a joking manner and somebody heard it and ran with it, right?
Or somebody,
like he's sitting down talking to his dad, like, I ain't playing for them. Like, total joke, right?
And his dad, and that's where, like I said, that's the reason why I brought the 2 stories up about his dad earlier. So it may be leaking out of whoever he talks to. And that's why I'm saying what I said earlier about Caleb Williams. There's something weird there, because a lot of stuff is coming out from people that claim to represent him. That doesn't always mean him. Example, Kevin Durant, when he said, I don't want to get drafted, I don't want to get traded from the Phoenix Suns, but it was a report out there that people are thinking he might be a little bit frustrated with the team. So it's not always true. I'm only giving it credence in the fact that there's been a few things that have been said from people that claim to be a part of his representation. Dad, I would definitely say, is one of them. And where there's smoke, there's fire sometimes.
Right.
And this is not an unprecedented move for a guy that's considered to be a generational quarterback. Like I said, John Elway, Eli Manning. It worked out for both those dudes. They won 2 Super Bowls with their respective, franchises that they went to because they refused to go to the others. So That's what I'm saying. It is something that works. If you go to a franchise that's better run, that has a little bit more historical, what's the word I'm like for, relevance, then it can work. But I'm with you on the sense that I hate it when it comes up because it does sound so freaking entitled.
It drives me crazy. But here's we'll end with I'll end it with this. If Caleb's listening to this, if you said this, go flip some burgers at Burger King and maybe get some just sense of like perspective, because there's a lot of people that give up everything they have to even have an inkling of what you have,
or go to like the amount of money that they pay to go see you play.
Yeah.
Like to buy your jersey. Go to the game. Like
that's what you need to. But if you didn't say it, hey man, good luck to you in the NFL, bro.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a whole different thing if you didn't say it, but it just comes, and that's what sucks about. I was talking with a buddy today, and about how your reputation start by somebody saying something that isn't even true or whatever, and then all of a sudden now it's hard to come back from that. And for me with Caleb, right? Like I heard that, and now I'm like, forever I will be tainted by that, right? Yep. And it's not his fault. He may not even have said it, but now every time I hear that name, I'm like, that entitled piece of crap, dude. Like, right? So it's funny, and you can't. How do you come back from that? It's almost 5 times harder to come back now.
Oh, totally agree. I mean, I get when you said that, like this flood of people started going through my brain of that exact situation. I don't want to talk about it right now because we had so many other things on our list. But yes, I'm like, oh yeah, coming back from that is pretty difficult.
100%.
Even if it's not true. Even if
it doesn't matter. Truth doesn't matter.
Yeah,
truth doesn't matter.
I gave the example of Kevin Durant. There's there's millions of people across this country that are NBA fans probably thought, oh, Kevin Durant just want to leave again. Can't stand it. Can't take the heat. When in reality, it's like he came out and said, I didn't say this. But for those people that didn't hear the rebuttal from Kevin Durant, they have their belief. Yep. And that's a hard thing to come back from.
Yep. You just leave it alone. And then every time they hear Kevin Durant, they're like, oh, that dude, he didn't even want to be here.
Yeah.
And that's not even the case.
No. But that brings up me a good point here. This is a good segue since we've been talking about KD. Is the big three going to work? Is Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant, are they going to deliver the Phoenix Suns their first NBA championship, or is it going to fall apart? And you're shaking your head the entire time I'm saying this.
I don't know, man. Like, it's tough. Like, I'm a big fan that I didn't want to get rid of Ayton. I was a big fan of Ayton. I just didn't like the way he played. He played like he was soft as soft gets, right? And that was his problem. How are you a 7-footer and you're trying to do a layup, bro? Just dunk it.
Or a finger roll.
A finger roll layup. I'm like, bro, you dunk the ball. Us 6'4" guys would give anything to be able to turn around.
5'10", I would give so much. To have his physical abilities.
Oh my gosh.
It just makes me want to freaking squeeze his neck. It's like, how do you not get it?
I'm like, I don't understand. That's why Shaq was great, right? When almost last time you saw Shaq do a finger roll, he didn't. Bro.
He broke hands. He broke backboards.
He broke backboards. Yeah, his whole goal was to put the backboard on the ground somehow.
If you want to take some time to look at how disrespectful Shaq was to other people trying to defend him, quickly look up Chris Dudley dunked on.
Yes.
Shaq dunks on Chris Dudley. The most disrespectful dunk.
Stands over him like
After he freaking humps it from the air and knocks it onto his back.
Yeah, it is. And then he throws a ball. Like the guy he runs like just demolishes, throws a ball at him in frustration. It is a great play.
Oh, yeah.
But
it is a great encapsulation of the way Shaq played down low. And it was, I don't expect DeAndre Ayton to be Shaq. I do expect him to dunk. I do expect him to use his unworldly athleticism, because he is, if he is not the most athletic 7-footer in the NBA, he's amongst them.
100%.
And for him to not play with any type of force, but constantly,
no aggression, just soft,
constantly go into the softest finesse plays. And I sound like I hate DeAndre Ayton. Let me tell you what, I was his biggest defender. I
remember having these conversations with you, and you had your perspective was different at the time because you were such a fan of him.
I know.
Yeah.
And it's so, because I remember telling my nephew this all the time. The thing that would drive me nuts about DeAndre Ayton is you see the unworldly potential in this guy. You can see why the Suns would select him over Luka Doncic, who I cannot stand watching play basketball. And that's a different topic. I can't stand his style of basketball. But you can see why they would select a guy with this kind of physical tools and for 5 years to be just let down.
Every year.
And to have one shining moment in the Clippers game, the Valley-oop. The one shining moment in that one playoff run where you thought, okay, he's going to get it. This is it. This is his light bulb moment. He's going to get it.
No,
he didn't.
He
got paid.
And, you know, comparing him to Shaq isn't fair. Also, because Shaq was probably double his weight.
Yeah.
If Ayton put on some pounds, it would have helped him. He was very lean.
But that wasn't his problem.
No,
that wasn't his problem.
He was quicker than Shaq ever was. He was a better free throw shooter than Shaq ever was.
Great shooter.
Yeah, like,
he's a great shooter.
But when it came time to put the ball in the hoop where you needed to make a statement, he would try to finger roll and he'd miss. And he'd be like, bro, I feel like you can look at the rim with your eyes when you like you're right there.
You're there.
Just dunk it.
And not just that, but it's also the demoralization that happens to the team when you constantly are dunking on them.
Yeah.
Amari Stoudemire, bless your soul.
Yeah.
One of the greatest big men to ever put on.
He was only 6'10", right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But the dude would dunk and dunk and dunk. And he would. So I heard this from Dan Bickley, who was a columnist for Arizona Republic at the time, now host on the Arizona Sports 98.7.com or 98.7fm.com. What's wrong with me? Yeah. So anyway, and he would say that the way that Amari Stoudemire explained to him the reason why he would dunk with such aggression is every time he went to dunk, he would try and take out all of his childhood trauma on the rim. And
perfect.
It showed.
Whatever it takes.
Showed. The problem.
I had a lot of trauma.
Yeah. But the difference between Amari's childhood and DeAndre, he grew up in the Bahamas on an island, and he's just so laid back and chill,
bro.
Which was what makes him so freaking lovable whenever he's behind the mic.
Right. No,
greatest dude. I can tell you, anybody would want to hang out with him as just a guy. Like, he just seems like the coolest dude in the world. But as a fan of his, gosh,
when you expected him to just destroy people because he was so athletic for a 7-footer.
When you expected him to not be traded for Yusuf Nurkic and Grayson Allen,
I know.
He
Grayson
should never be considered a trade chip to get. I mean, if you're trading DeAndre Ayton, what you should be expecting based on physicals, physical abilities, you should be expecting him to be the piece that brought Kevin Durant back. And you would expect the Nets to be giving you draft picks.
Yeah.
Because you're getting a young, crazy athletic 7-footer with all of the ability.
With potential through the roof.
Dude, softest touch or on the rim. Anytime he would take that fade away, I'm like, okay, I hate that he's doing it, but holy crap, is he good at it?
He makes it. Yeah.
He makes it. But you'd expect that guy to be the one to say, all right, you know what? He's on the trade block because we need a different piece. Not us. Not us going to the Nets and emptying our bench, giving all of our draft picks.
Which was terrible.
And them saying, no, we don't want DeAndre Ayton. We don't want him a part of this trade. That's what DeAndre Ayton became. And it became so poor that we had to go to the freaking Trailblazers. And I railed and yelled and screamed when that trade happened. But I have to admit, it's proven to be right because DeAndre Ayton 1 isn't even on the court. He's not even playing.
Yeah, I haven't heard. I was just thinking, I haven't heard much about him at all. Yeah.
He hasn't been playing at all. He's been hurt. And Grayson Allen, as much as I cannot stand that
he's
guy,
a dirty player or has a history of being a dirty player.
And that's not just conjecture or reputation. I have seen the plays.
Yes, 100%.
Okay? He is playing out of his mind.
Yep.
And it is making it harder and harder and harder to hate him. But I'll tell you what, unless we win a championship, I will continue to hate that man.
Right. If he brings us the championship, then all is forgiven. Yeah, we thought it was Durant. It was really Grayson Allen. Yeah, it was KD, you can sit down.
What a friggin' disgusting thought if that is the case. But Yusuf Nurkic has played well. He has played well. I just don't believe he's going to maintain it. And gosh, dude, it's so slow. He's so slow on the defensive. It's just, that's the thing I miss so much about DeAndre Ayton. His ability to protect the rim. You're not going to get 8 blocks a game. He's not Manute Bol. He's not Bol.
Right.
But his athleticism kept him to the point people couldn't just attack the rim at all times.
Because he was huge. He's a 7-footer with a wingspan.
With a huge wingspan and an enormous vertical. And he really was pretty solidly defensively. The
reason why it was such a letdown with him is because there were games.
I'm gonna cry, man.
There were moments in games where you were like, why doesn't that guy play like that every day? Every game. Why is that aggression? Whatever that was, why can't you? But it was like he never could flip the switch and leave it on.
Yeah.
He would show it one time, go 6 games without it, and all of a sudden he'd be like,
the ultimate tease.
Holy crap.
The ultimate sports tease, man. It was
ST.
ST is now the term for sports tease. Oh, dude. But it was so true because every single time I would just get this belief, it's going to be him. And it's not. And this whole discussion about DeAndre Ayton started with us asking, are Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant and Devin Booker going to take us there?
In short, just to wrap, I don't know. I want to believe it, but I've been a Suns fan for so long that it's like being a Cowboy fan. I'm just used to disappointment. I just expect the worst. And when they had that hot run without KD, so previously with the Booker and all those guys they got rid of, right? Because I was a huge Cam
Johnson.
Yeah.
That was Shale's favorite player too.
I was such a fan of him. I loved where how he played. He was a young kid. I think he came out of North Carolina
North Carolina Tar Heel.
Just great. And then you let him go. And and the other kid, the other guy,
Bridges. He was the one that broke my heart.
The guy played. He was like injury free.
Hasn't missed a game since high school. Has not missed a game since high school. Played 3 years at Villanova. 3 years at Villanova. All of high school. Hasn't missed a single game in the NBA. He played. By the way, the regular season in the NBA is 82 games. He played 83 games last year because he played an extra game with the Nets after having gotten traded. He has not missed a game.
And we let him go.
And we traded
for
him.
What?
For a greatest of all time level player. I mean, he's not the greatest, but Kevin Durant is easily the greatest offensive player I've ever seen in my life play.
I remember watching him for years. Right, he comes out of Texas, a 7-footer kid, like just lanky, and you got to. I think he kind of set the way for 7-footers hitting 3-pointers,
absolutely,
doing all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
But how long's KD been in the league?
2000, and he was a part of the 2007 draft class. So 2007, 2008 season was his rookie year.
14 years. Yeah, right. We're in 14 years.
We're 2014. No, dude, that's longer than that. That's 16 years almost. This would be a 17th
24. Yeah. Okay. So. Where my point is, I don't know. Like, I feel like how much more can his knees and stuff take? You're a 7-footer.
Yeah.
And it ain't discrediting his ability, his talent. That's all there. I'm just like body wise, like you got to start looking at longevity. The fact that LeBron still plays it, I hate
He's
LeBron.
A freak.
Listen, we will get into this later, I'm sure, at some other show. I
will defend LeBron and you will attack him.
LeBron is good. I will never say he is a phenomenal basketball player, but he is not the GOAT, nor will he ever be the GOAT. And we'll talk about that later. But the fact that he's 40 years old or whatever, he is now 39, 38.
39, he's still, playing ridiculously well. But you're right.
Out of his mind.
But he is a unicorn.
Yes, 100%.
He is a unicorn. Yeah. And I get what you're saying about Kevin Durant is you can't expect a guy in his mid-30s to be able to hold up. And guess what? He hasn't.
And not for the amount of minutes the Suns need him to.
Yeah.
I think if you start KD, he plays half the first quarter, comes out for 4 or 5 minutes, give him his rest, right? Kind of like, remember Steve Nash when he was really good on those teams, right? He had his moments where he needed his rest, but they could do that because they had backups for
They had Leandro Barbosa to come in and beep around everybody.
Barbosa, that was a great son, man. He's the best six man ever, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Ginobili, you suck. You should not have won that award that year. Yeah, screw you, yeah. Flopper. But
you really ruined our game, right? You ruined it. You brought that European soccer or South American soccer style to our NBA and
flopping all over the place. Like you get touched. Anyway,
you can tell that we are Suns fans who hate the Spurs.
Oh yeah, 100%. We could talk a whole episode on Spurs hate. Yes. But from David Robinson to Tim Duncan, you name them all.
Freaking
Tony
you should
Parker.
Not ever be able. This is the same problem I had with the Colts. You should never be able to go from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck. And they're getting their comeuppance now, man. They're getting it now. You should never be able to go from that to that. You should never go from David Robinson to Tim Duncan. The
Admiral.
And then, not immediately, then to Victor Wembanyama. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I hate the Spurs. But anyway, that's a whole other. But so
Kevin Durant.
He's just, for me, I feel like he's just, we don't, it's not his fault. I just think that the organization doesn't have the player to keep him healthy enough where he doesn't play as long.
We have no depth.
So when you talk about championship, for me, I don't think we have it. But I hope I'm wrong because I will buy a ticket to a final game, right? Like, I want to go. But I just don't think we have. I'm a big Devin Booker fan.
The best.
He's phenomenal.
Greatest Phoenix Sun.
Dude, he is so good. And he makes basketball look effortless. He reminds me of Tiger Woods in his prime with golf, right? It's part of him. It's what he does. And it's awesome to watch. But I just don't think that, like, I don't know.
I was with you up until this last Lakers game. Well, I can't even say I wasn't with you because I'm still probably leaning toward your side. Did you watch the last game against the Lakers?
No. Okay. I've been out of town.
Oh, yeah. So this one was one where it kind of opened my eyes to what this team could be. Now, granted, it's the Lakers, so I can't say a whole, but they're not that great this year. They're not. I mean, LeBron, we've talked about him. Anthony Davis is still a really good player in the NBA. I don't know where I rank him anymore, but he's still a very, very good,
for sure,
very good player. Outside of that, I mean, they got Austin Reeves, who's a solid role player.
I like that guy. I don't know why.
How could you not?
I know.
The only reason you don't like him is because he plays for the Lakers.
Right. I mean, he's just a white guy running all over the place, like this little white guy. Yeah.
And talking.
Yeah. Like, you're like, bro, you can't be saying that to those people.
Baby. Like, this guy's getting after it. But that's like, when I look at that roster and say, he's the guy I would take off that roster.
Yeah.
I'm not taking D'Angelo Russell.
No.
So Rui Hachimura, I mean, he's got the body of an NBA player, like a good solid power forward, but he doesn't seem like he has the consistency. He don't have it. But I mean, so I have to take that with a grain of salt. But what Bradley Beal did in that game is what really opened my eyes to like, okay, this is what I expected to see. That is what Kevin Durant, pedestrian on the scoring, but guess what? He didn't have to because Devin Booker came out on fire in the first quarter. End of the game with 30 points. And Bradley Beal, anytime he was on the court, was on fire for 37 points.
Is this the game where they came back?
No, that was last night.
Yeah, they played KD at the 5, and they came back. They were down
last night. Right? They came back. Yeah. They went on a 24-2 run and beat the Kings
in the last 8 minutes.
Yeah. But the thing that drives me nuts about that is that you shouldn't need to be coming from a 24-2
against
run.
The Kings.
You shouldn't need. Well, the Kings are a good team, but you shouldn't have to go on a 24-2 run to win by 2. No. With those 3 guys on your roster, you should be in every game. You should never have a 20-point deficit. You shouldn't. Now, I know in today's NBA that's going to happen to every good team, but that was my problem with last night. As amazing as the comeback was, you buried yourself. You dug this hole that you had to dig yourself out of, and you shouldn't be doing that with 2. Kevin Durant is an absolute, no doubt, Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Bradley Beal is he gets besmirched a lot because they played for a bad Wizards team, but he was a scoring champion in the NBA. He did have a season in which he averaged over 30 points. That's legit. Whether that gets into the Hall of Fame or not, I don't know. Devin Booker's on his way.
Yeah, he's definitely making his way for sure.
He's on his way. And for people like me who've been a Suns fan my entire life, this took a lot for me to come to the realization. I think he's past Steve Nash as my favorite Phoenix Sun, which is hard to say because, dude, as an impressionable young boy, when Steve Nash came back to the Suns from the Dallas Mavericks, and he came back, I remember being devastated when we traded him.
Yep.
Right? With Michael Finley. I remember being so sad about that. But at the same time,
good old Michael Finley.
Michael Finley, dude. He didn't play for us near as long as I thought he did. But it was a time of my life where one season felt like 10.
Yep.
So, but anyway, when he came back and he turned the Suns completely on 180, we went from a doormat I gotta stop using doormat.
You
That's
use
my
doormat
word
a
this
lot.
session,
That is
dude.
a great word for you this session. Yeah. If you have $1 for every time he said that, you can buy a Happy Meal at
You
this
start
point.
playing the bingo game. Throw this down. Anytime that he says it, cross it off.
Yeah.
We went from a dumpster fire. That team was a bad team. That was when we went from Jason Kidd and Penny Hardaway. That was supposed to be the backcourt 2000, baby.
There you
and then we
go.
had to jettison Jason Kidd because he got into some altercation with his wife at the time. I don't know all the details, so I'm not going to,
Yeah.
And then Penny Hardaway, one of the saddest NBA stories outside of Len Bias. And it's probably really stupid of me to say that, but I mean it in the sense that that guy had all the talent in the world and he just didn't have the health. He just couldn't stay healthy. He could not stay on the court. Sorry, Penny. You coach my Memphis Tigers, baby. Take them into prominence, but you couldn't do anything in Phoenix. And anyways, we went from that, our terrible team. We go and sign Steve Nash. He comes in with Quentin Richardson, and suddenly 7 seconds or less takes over the NBA.
Insane. It was the greatest thing on a basketball court at the time.
It was the most insane thing. Not just that, but we went from a terrible franchise. I'm not going to say it. Not going to say the word. We went from that to a team that I want to say at one point, the team was 26-6. I can't remember the exact record.
They should have won a championship. I mean, that was hard. But I mean, defense wins games, and they didn't play defense for nothing. Like,
but I'll tell you what, I would love for this Phoenix Suns team with KD, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker
couldn't run
to
like
have
that.
Mike D'Antoni coach him.
Right.
Just get out there and run.
KD couldn't do it. His knees couldn't do it.
You know what
There's
KD
no
can
way.
do? You don't even have to cross the 3-point line, baby. Just run from 3-point line to 3-point line. We'll get you an open shot. But that's the thing that I missed. But also, I got to recognize it's not possible with this team because we don't have a Steve Nash to run it.
Right. And Steve Nash passed the ball. I mean,
Steve Nash is going to go down as one of the greatest shooters in the NBA's history who didn't shoot.
Right.
Because he passed the ball.
He was such an assist machine,
He was
though.
such a floor general.
Yeah, and he could see the floor. I played basketball with a kid in high school like this. His name is Mark Rove, and if he ever listens to this, it's a shout out to him for this. He's like a brother to me, right? But he was like that. He didn't have to be looking anywhere near you to throw the ball. And it was just, I think you just naturally have that. I think you just be able to do that. Steve Nash had that so well. Like, people were blown away, and that's why Amari Stoudemire could do what we talked about.
That's why Amari turned into Amari.
100%. It was all Steve Nash's doing. It was nothing to do with Amari was good. Wherever he would have went, he would have been fine. But what he was able to do and who he became was because of Steve Nash.
Yeah, the who he became part is what I'm with you on that one. Because obviously he had ability. I mean, he was a first-round draft pick out of high school. The Suns took him, right? And he was good. His rookie year was amazing. He was a rookie of the year.
Yeah.
Over Yao Ming. So, I mean, that's a big thing.
Yao Ming
was a big thing. And I mean, size, huge. But I mean,
7'4", 7'4",
7'4". And anyway, and not just that, like 290 pounds, 7'4", like big dude.
Remember how unorthodox he was too when he first got? They just got him for size. They had to teach him to play basketball.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I mean, so anyway, Amari Stoudemire, an amazing player, but he became an All NBA player because of the guy feeding him the ball.
Yeah,
getting him the ball right where he needed it to score, and that team just took off. And it was anyway. Like I said, all of that to say, even with Steve Nash's amazing things that he did for the franchise, pulling them out of the gutter, turning them into a perennial Western Conference challenging team. We never made it to the finals, but they were in the Western Conference Finals, I think 4 times with Steve. And every playoff run was exciting. Every season was exciting. He won 2 MVPs, consecutive MVPs, amazing stuff. And he did all those things. And maybe it's recency bias, but I'm over here saying, I think Devin Booker's my favorite Phoenix Sun. And maybe some of it's because he was with us when we were at our absolute worst. Right. And he never, ever, you never heard anything from him about talking about how he wanted to leave Phoenix. There was stuff all over the nation saying that, oh, you can't keep Devin Booker there. He's got to get out. He's got to go find a place to compete. He never left. And he took us to a place that Steve Nash couldn't, the NBA Finals.
Yep. He did.
He took us to the finals. And so, maybe the MVP, maybe the final strip is what cancels out Steve Nash's MVPs and why I look at that and say Devin Booker's my favorite. But I think so much more of it has to do with the fact that he said, I'm never leaving. He was quoted as saying, I'm not going to create a super team. A super team's going to come to me. And what happened this year?
Great. Yeah.
Kevin Durant, one of the greatest players of all time, and Bradley Beal. I mean, in this NBA, a great player in this NBA, maybe not on the all-time scale. I'm not going to worry about that. But those guys came to him. And so everybody in the offseason is talking about how that's the super team in the West is Devin Booker. And they came to him because he wasn't going to leave and he was going to build it here. And that's probably why.
And that makes sense, right? Yeah. Native, you like the fact that he paid.
He paid his dues, dude.
Yeah, and he went through the crap. He
suffered through it, man.
Right, but he was loyal. And we talked about loyalty and all this stuff that you don't see anymore,
You don't see,
right?
yeah.
So you see a guy like this is like, yeah, I want to be loyal.
And not only that, but you see every single year him getting better at a certain phase of his game.
So good.
And that's also the going back, bringing it back to DeAndre Ayton. That's the other part that DeAndre had so hard is when you had a teammate like Devin Booker who didn't have anywhere close to the physical skills that DeAndre Ayton had, but yet he turned himself into the player he is out of sheer hard work and dedication to saying, no, I'm going to get better. This is a phase of my game I'm not good at. I'm going to be good at it. Anyway.
No, so I think we agree. I think there's potential for them to be the big three you're talking about. I just don't. I don't know. You know what? We'll readdress this in like April and see where it's gone. Only time will tell. Only time will tell.
I know for me, the hope that I have is even if it doesn't work out this year, is that it can work out the next. Because remember when the last big three happened when Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade and LeBron joined up in Miami? That first year, they went to the finals. They lost. They lost it. The Mavericks beat them. Dirk got his ring. So it's like, even if they lose, I mean, they went through the next three finals together,
right?
And won two of them. So
just getting there is a big deal.
Yeah, getting there is a huge deal.
If they get there and they lose, I don't think that's a loss.
Yeah,
like in the sense of what we're talking about. Did they get them there? I think that's a win. They got them there. The fact that they got outplayed, that's something you can't control, right? But getting there is what they got to do.
Yeah, getting there is a big freaking deal. So anyway, that's our thing about the Suns. I want to ask you this question here. Did you see that Lions playoff win? The Rams?
The recent one?
The one that just happened.
Against the Rams. The Rams, yeah.
Did you see all those people in the stands bawling their eyes out?
Can you blame them?
No, I can't. It was honestly, for me on my end, I almost started being like, I got you, dog.
You have to. It's 32 years.
32 years.
Since a playoff win. You hosted a playoff game for this win. And you went against Matthew Stafford, who they drafted in 2008 when they went 0-16 with their head coach as their tight end. 0-16, not winning one game.
Not winning one of two teams, I believe, in history of the NFL to not win a single game.
And now they just won their first playoff game.
Might as well have been the Super Bowl.
For them, yeah. I mean, granted, what was their rank? Was that 3-4 playing? Because 5 and
no, I think the Rams were one of the last teams.
3-6, right? Yeah, it was 3-6. So Rams had the advantage. I didn't think Jared Goff would play as well as he did.
No, I didn't either.
I'll be honest, I just didn't. I just thought Matthew Stafford would come home to a homecoming,
and Puka Nacua came to play.
He balled
set the
out.
NFL record for rookie receiving yards.
Did great.
Yep.
But the Lions are just. I feel like they got that. There's something about some of those teams, and they got it right. It's just called it. They just have it, and that's the team where I feel like if you have to play the Lions, you better show up.
Oh yeah,
because their coach is going to have them ready to go.
And the thing is what they have and this is a Kurt Warner statement. This is what Kurt Warner said. Oh, I can't remember what team it was that he was commenting on when it came to the Cardinals. He was basically comparing that team to the Super Bowl team. He said the Super Bowl team may not have been the best team he'd ever played on. I mean, the Cardinals Super Bowl team. So,
right.
But the thing he said is we had the best playmakers, like on positions that mattered. We had Larry Fitzgerald and Anquan Bolden. Those were playmakers. Edgerrin James at the end of his career. I mean, he wasn't as great as he was when he was the Colts. But when he was with us, he was a playmaker. He wasn't super consistent with it, but you could guarantee you're going to get a play or two out of it.
Right.
Darnell Dockett was a playmaker. He would make Calais Campbell at that time in his career was still very young, but you knew he could make a big play. Overall, the depth wasn't good. We had a lot of players that weren't good, but we had a lot of guys that could contribute into key freaking moments.
Right.
And so that's what the Lions have.
One tackle. That's we're talking a different story, right?
And guess who almost made the tackle?
Larry Fitzgerald.
If Antro rolled was in the freaking way and get off the sidelines, Larry Fitzgerald would have added to his tackle total.
Yeah, right.
But that's the thing with the Lions. They have playmakers.
They do.
At key positions. Depth-wise, they may not be the most deep team. But, Jahmyr Gibbs, he can make a play.
He's
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah.
He can make a play. Right. Jamison Williams.
Hutchinson's playing good.
Dude, Aiden Hutchinson's one of the best defensive ends in the game now. And this is his second or third year? Yeah. He's already cemented himself as that really guy. Well. And so, like I said, they've got playmakers at key positions.
Laporta's a rookie, I believe, right? Tight end, playing well. Yeah.
Already considered one of the best tight ends in the game as a rookie.
Like he's doing really well. So, I mean, they have a lot going for them. And I'm a fan of the way their coach. I
love Dan Campbell's style.
I love the way he coaches, and he's passionate. And I watched a video on him today. And if you get a chance to Google this, he's talking. It basically talks about how they laughed at him at the beginning of the year, And they're like, well, look at him now.
Look at him now.
Because he was having them practice in full pads when nobody else was. And he was telling them, you need to pursue and you need to tackle. That's how you get good.
And one of the things I remember him saying all the time is like, I know you guys are thinking this is crazy. I know people are laughing at this, but I promise you, this is the stuff we have to do to get better. I promise you. And there's nothing better than when you're a coach and what you're saying in June and July and August is manifested in December and January.
Yes.
When everything you said back then, because that way, that's how you get buy-in.
100%.
That's how you get culture change in a program. That's how you get players to say, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. Because we may have looked at him with a side eye back then, but everything he said,
now they believe in him.
Led us to here.
Yep. Now they will follow that man into battle.
Yeah.
All day, every day.
It just, going back to like when they were panning over the side of all the people in the crowd and just seeing grown men and grown women crying. It's just one of those things where the first thing I thought, this is something that Rex Chapman tweets all the time. Anytime there's something like this, he's like, sports, man. Sports.
It's true.
It just gets you.
I will tell you, as a devoted Cowboy fan my whole entire life, I remember them playing in the Super Bowl, but I was young. I was 8, 9 years old, right? I would probably cry if they won a Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Just because of the emotion. My kids are like, Dad, why are we Cowboy fans? You know,
why are you doing this?
Why did you make us this? It's so hard. I'm like, I know, just write it out. We'll be good next year. Next year's our year.
It's always next year.
It's always next year will be our year. You will hear it. This year in July, you will hear it'll be the Cowboys' year.
And then next year, unfortunately for you, it's Mike McCarthy, the head coach again.
Oh, okay, good. We can segue right into this.
That's a perfect segue.
It is. So I was never a fan of McCarthy.
Yeah.
He coached at Green Bay. For those that don't know,
won a title, won a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers.
And I don't think it had anything to do with him now. At first, you kind of have to believe it did, but kind of the same thing with Belichick, right? Is Aaron Rodgers won that Super Bowl. Tom Brady won all those Super Bowls. They had good help with the coaches, but I think when it comes to play calling, and I think Mike McCarthy was the play caller for Green Bay for that time, but I think he gave Rodgers the ability to be like, I'm not calling those. You know what I mean? I'm going to change it.
So the thing I'm going to push back on, I'm only going to push back on the Belichick statement. Okay. It was both. I don't think Tom Brady's winning those Super Bowls without him. And I don't think Tom Brady becomes Tom Brady without him.
I don't disagree.
Going to the Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy, I don't honestly know who to give the credit to on that one, because I look at it and say, both of you guys are nuts. I know that Aaron Rodgers won 2 MVPs without Mike McCarthy, but he did nothing in the playoffs without Mike McCarthy. Nothing.
I know.
So it's one of those things where it might have just been the perfect storm for them to get that Super Bowl. But I also look at Mike McCarthy and say, you've done nothing without Aaron Rodgers. You had a good regular season this year.
He's 1-4 in the playoffs as the Dallas Cowboys quarterback or head coach. Like, I don't know what you can do. I mean, like I told you earlier, when statistically speaking, the Green Bay Packers have a better playoff record at the Dallas Cowboy AT&T Stadium than the Dallas Cowboys do, that's a problem.
Also, here's another problem for you. When the Houston Texans joined the league in 2002, since 2002, when the Houston Texans became a franchise and existed, okay, the Dallas Cowboys have
I don't even like where this is going.
Playoff wins than the Houston Texans.
Yeah, that's great. And this includes this year with CJ Stroud killing it right now.
Oh, yeah. CJ Stroud is killing me.
Yeah.
He's taking that draft pick we're supposed to get to him and just shoot it straight up the charts, man.
Yeah.
What was supposed to be a top 10 pick is now, at worst, the 27th.
Yeah.
At worst.
Yeah.
But anyway, so with Mike McCarthy returning as your head coach, the thing that gets me, and again, I'm not a Cowboys fan. In fact, I am an anti-Cowboys fan. I hate the Cowboys.
You either love them or you hate them.
Yes, it is. It's 100% true.
There's no in between.
There's not many people out there that hate the Cardinals. They're always like, whatever, that's a team.
Right.
But that is very true about the Cowboys. Nobody sits in the middle on the Cowboys.
Nope.
It is you love or you hate. But I look at that and say, you should have a higher standard for what you expect. Jerry Jones, I hope you're listening to me when I say you've made good decisions on your roster. I used to give Sim so much crap for being the general manager and not trusting a football guy to do that, but instead him doing it. I can't deny that he has picked some great players. He picked Tony Romo out of a cornfield. Okay. And not saying that Tony Romo's the greatest quarterback of all time, but you cannot deny the fact that a guy that late in the draft becomes the player he was is really impressive.
No. And Tony, I think he was trying out for the US Open when they told him he was going to be the starter now.
Insane.
Like he was playing golf more than he was really playing football. Like he knew he was never going to get a chance because he was behind Drew Bledsoe, I believe, at the time.
Yeah, and he was the holder. He was the
he was a holder. Like he was like, I'm golfing. I'm trying to get good at golf. You know?
Because this is not my career. And he becomes a starter. And like I said, not a lot of playoff success, but he's a Phillip Rivers of the Cowboys.
100%.
Immense regular season success.
And Tony Romo would have better success, but we all think of the one play in the playoffs, right? Against Seattle. The one, that's the Green Bay catch, but I'm talking about the fumble of the extra point thing, remember?
Oh, yes.
That's where he got all the hate from.
Yes,
bro.
and I remember being blown away. It's like, that was your one job.
Yep, that's your job. That's your job. You had nothing else to do. And they weren't even worried about, it's Romo. They didn't take him off the whole year. They were like, no, we're just going to keep him there. He's been doing it.
Yeah.
And then you do that.
Yeah, okay, and then I've got more praise. I'm going to give him more praise here. He then found Dak Prescott, who, again, is he an all-timer? No. But is he a really good quarterback? Would half the league trade their quarterback for Dak Prescott and pay him the money Dak's getting paid? Absolutely.
They absolutely would.
Absolutely would. And he was a 4th-round draft pick that he picked and said, hey, that's my guy. So I am not going to besmirch him as the GM as much as I would like to.
Well, and I think all these good decisions you're talking about with Dak and moving on, what the change with Jerry Jones was he got off the field.
Yeah.
Like he stopped going down on the field at halftime or when they were losing games. And then you don't want to see the owner. Go to your suite, your press box, dude, and just up there what you're doing and just look from there. Like, I don't need you on the field as a player. I'm going like, oh, now you're like, oh, crap, Dad's here. Like we're screwed. like if this ain't good now, you feel even more pressure in a game, I think, right? So, but anyway, that's why I think that changed.
Well, I was going to say the problem I see with Jerry Jones, and this is normally something you commend in owners, is patience. He needs to have a lot less patience for the mediocre head coaches he hires.
Yeah.
Jason Garrett.
Yeah.
We talked about him earlier.
Yeah.
I honestly don't understand how he keeps falling into these jobs. He is awful on NBC. Awful. All he is smiling and clapping and everything. I never heard anything out of him that makes me give any kind of color to the game I'm watching that I already didn't think or beyond what he said. Like, I don't understand how he gets that job. And I certainly don't understand how he remained the head coach of the Cowboys for as long as he was with no postseason success. And then same thing with Mike McCarthy. Dude, you need to read the writing on the wall and say, that's not my guy. We made a mistake. You own it. Every NFL franchise has done it outside of the Pittsburgh Steelers, apparently, who have had 3 coaches in 60 years.
I can't believe I just saw how long Mike Tomlin had been there.
Can you believe that? I had no idea.
And he's got 1 year left on his contract still. Yeah. He said he's coming back. But I'm like,
he's going to come back. And the Steelers are not going to fire him.
No.
And that's where I say, like, I normally would say I respect so much the patience at franchise because the Steelers have a proven track record of, nope, he's our guy. And they put all of the power behind him. They empower him. And and that's every coach they've had has gotten a Super Bowl. Right? Yeah. So obviously it's worked. Now, some people will argue that the problem with Mike Tomlin is he's too good of a coach. So he can't let the team bottom out to actually get the right players in the draft. Right. But I can look. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
I think he's had a winning season.
Never had a losing season ever.
Yeah, that's insane. And he's been in the league for
17 years.
Time. Yeah,
17 years as a head coach and never had a losing season.
That's incredible.
That's the problem I see with, and especially this offseason. Jerry Jones, you got to look at it and say, we have great coaching prospects out there that I could hire. And I'm going to stick with this guy. Dude, get Pete Carroll. If you're not going to get Belichick, who I understand why you wouldn't, because he's going to want personnel control. He's going to want the choice to be able to pick the players, and he's going to take that from. And I can understand why Jerry says I'm not giving that up, because Jerry's track record of drafting is way better than Bill Belichick's.
I know, but if you want to win a Super Bowl bad enough, everything else you've tried hasn't worked.
No, you're right.
So it's like, hey, why don't we try this? Sign him to a 2-year deal. See what he does for the next year or two. Sit back and say, you know what? I'm going to be an owner. I'm going to let you run this and see what happens. Ball's in your court. You drop the ball, you're out.
And not only that, but for 2 years, that's all Bill Belichick needs for a good team to be able to get the all-time wins record.
And
he's 15 wins behind.
The Cowboys arguably have the most talented roster total in the league. When you look at their skill players, when you look at their line, I mean, they have the ability to be there.
Absolutely.
And for Bill Belichick to be available on the market, I think you have to entertain the idea, try. He can tell you no, but where else does Bill Belichick walk into a place that's that stacked with a team with that kind of ability that's free right now of coaches?
And I'll tell you right now,
the Tennessee Titans.
Well, no, and as I would say there is nowhere, because those jobs don't become available if you're good. If you have a good team, you don't have an available job out there that's got a good roster. It's typically available because the roster sucks and the coach sucked.
Yep.
So that's why I look at it and say, I'm not even advocating for Bill Belichick because I just don't see that as a fit. But I look at Pete Carroll, a guy who does not care. He's just going to come in and do his rah-rah thing. And he's as energetic as he's ever been.
He's older than you think, too. Like,
but he's still younger than Bill Belichick.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Bill Belichick, I think, has got him by a year.
But they're still in their 70s. Yeah,
no,
they're still. I'm like, but when you see Pete Carroll dancing around like chest bumping people, you're like, bro, you're in your 70s. I've got my in-laws are in their 70s. My father-in-law ain't jumping and chest bumping anybody, dude. Like, it's crazy to see that.
Bill Belichick. Oh, you're right. No. Pete Carroll's the oldest. He's 72. Belichick's 71. So I had it backwards. But the point I'm trying to say is, Pete Carroll is jumping up and dancing in the locker room with his players. He's got that energy, and he always has. But okay, fine. We're not going to hire those two old guys. What about Mike Vrabel?
That would be interesting.
A legitimate coach out there.
I'm surprised they let him go. I don't understand.
I think that was one of those things where they just kind of looked at it and say, time has run its course.
We need another thing. And I get it.
Which I always have a hard time when they do that. When they fire a guy who they know is a good coach, when he doesn't have a good quarterback.
Yeah.
It's like you can't put all of this on him. There's something has to go to the guy choosing the player to be under center. We only have so many options as the coach.
Right.
If you're not letting me also go to the grocery store and pick the groceries, and if you're just handing it to me, what am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah.
And anyway, so Mike Vrabel's available. Like that, I think that's a good coach out there. We got a lot of job openings right now. I mean, the Patriots already filled theirs.
Which was surprising they didn't take Vrabel, but I guess the contract was written that way. And that makes sense. That's why it happened so fast with the replacement and stuff.
Yeah, Gerard Mayo had a clause in his contract that he was going to be the next head coach the minute Bill Belichick stepped down, which is why he got the job so quickly and also the youngest head coach in the NFL. But Mike Vrabel, I felt like was a hand in glove fit right there. That guy's the guy.
I thought he played for him
for a long time, had good success.
The Kraft family likes him. I thought, why not? But no. But now you look at the Falcons are open, right? I think Dan
also
Quinn,
don't have a quarterback.
I think Dan Quinn will go there. He's from there.
Didn't he coach there already?
Yeah,
he got fired from there.
I don't think he was a head coach there. Yeah. No, he was a head coach.
He was a head coach, and he got fired. That's why he's the DC for the Cowboys.
But everybody's coming after him. Like he turned down jobs last year because he was devoted to this team. And if he's listening to this, if you're listening to this, you run a zone defense for the first time pretty much all year,
and you give up 48 points,
you need to be throat punched as well. Yeah. Like you put Micah Parsons, but dropping back in coverage. What?
I had heard that was to kind of give him a break because he was so gassed. I had heard that.
No, I watched the whole game, bro. That was on a passing down. It was like a second and long, like you knew. So instead they play safe. And that's what the Cowboys do is they play rough. They play like super aggressive all year round. And then they get to the playoffs and they're like, we're going to play soft and let you just throw it underneath for 20 yards at a time. And I hate them for it. Well, it's still too fresh. Anyway, there's lots of openings in the NFL.
There's a lot of openings. We've got the Raiders are opening because Josh McDaniels can't coach anywhere at all. I have a lot of beef with Josh McDaniels. I do not like that guy at all.
Is he the one that's going to make a ton of money not coaching?
I mean, he's going to make some money, but he's not the guy.
There's somebody out there, and I can't remember who it is, but there's somebody who's no longer the coach or whatever, but his way his contract is they're going to have to pay him out, and he's going to make a ton of money, and he's not even coaching anymore.
Yeah, it might be him. I mean, I look at Josh McDaniels, and I think that guy is burned. He burned the Broncos, and he burned the Raiders. He's a terrible coach.
Yeah, he did.
And I have personal feelings on this because what he did when he was in the Broncos, and I'm not going to get into that because I don't think I have the permission to share it. But I think that guy is an absolute piece of crap. Not a big fan of his. Frank Reich with the Panthers. I don't know how he got the job to begin with. He's out. Brandon Staley with the Chargers should have been fired 3 years ago. He's finally out. And Arthur Smith of the Falcons. I mean, I don't know what that guy's problem is. He's clearly not a good coach. He's gone. Ron Rivera with the Commanders. Don't know how he got that job to begin with, but whatever. He's gone. We already talked about Mike Vrabel, Pete Carroll. Mike McCarthy somehow is not.
I think he will be. I just think Jerry Jones is waiting because the media expects him to go. And I just maybe Jerry Jones will just wait, even though
I don't know. I saw a report that said he's staying.
And it's hard because I met Mike McCarthy.
Oh, I'm sure he's a good guy.
Good guy. He's a good guy. His family lives in Buckeye. Like his mom and dad, I believe his parents live in Buckeye. He's from Scottsdale area. Like he's lived in Scottsdale for a while. I'm like, dude, I wanted him to be the guy, even though I hate that he came from the Packers because of that catch, right? But I hate the Packers. And my mom loved him. Rest in peace. My mom got her Packers kicked the crap out of the Cowboys, and she took my dad back in 24 hours. Like, that selfish woman, dude. Like, she was thinking about nothing but herself. Joke's on us, right? But so I don't know, but I think it'll open up. I don't know. How do you keep him? You can't. Who do you blame? Everybody keeps blaming Dak. Listen, Dak definitely he definitely buckled under pressure.
Here's my thing about Dak. Is he the greatest quarterback? No, but he is a good quarterback, and that's one of the things that drives me nuts. And I don't think you're blameless in this. One of the things that drives me nuts is everybody always blames the Cowboys quarterback
every time. And it's the most pressured job ever.
I say I don't hold you out of this because you do the same thing with Troy Aikman when he's announcing a game.
I can't.
You always want to blame the Cowboys quarterback.
Troy Aikman 100% doesn't like the Dallas Cowboys. I don't care what anybody says. I think he wants them to fail because he wants to be the best team to ever come through. And I get that. But if you just listen to the way he talks about Dallas, it doesn't matter if they're 14-0. He's talking about how they don't do something right. And it's just negative. And Joe Buck's always trying to save it by bringing it around. But if Troy Aikman, if you're listening to this, you need to change your ways. Like, your loyalty is gone.
Also, if you're listening to this, Troy, thank you. Appreciate it. Oh, man. All right. Well, one of the questions I wanted to ask, and we're already into this an hour and a half, so we probably ought to wrap it here.
This has been nothing but a sports episode. There'll be other things. This has been a sports one for sure.
We got a lot of things I wanted to talk about, but we had some serious, actual stuff happen with the Cowboys. With there always being, the playoffs, there's always going to be a lot of football to talk about. And then when you have Black Monday, which is the day they refer to all the NFL head coaches losing their jobs, there's a lot to talk about there. I mean, we just have got so much going on, and Suns. I really want them to win. I really want them to win, man.
I really give it time. Give it time.
But well, with that being said, we're going to call it. This would be part 2 of episode 2, which means you get us for 2 hours this week.
That's right.
All right, man. We hope that you guys enjoyed this. And got anything else you want to say before we close this out?
No, I guess like fat kids in dodgeball. We're out.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.